Okay, we start. Today we will study about nodal analysis together. It is a very interesting and important topic for us, especially if we want to go to petroleum engineering, reservoir engineering, or production engineering. And we start with introduction to nodal analysis. All right, so talking about nodal analysis, it's always about system performance. Okay, this is a schematic. Let's say we have a system consists of these blocks. Okay, block 1, 2, 3, and 4, 4 components or 4 elements, and between each block we have intersection, we have interface, or we can also say we have node. So this is the node itself is the source of the word nodal. Okay, so you can understand from that we have node between each blocks. Okay, between block 1 and block 2 we have the intersection, we have the interface, we have the node there. Okay, so we have node 1, node 2, and node 3. Okay, and if we highlight on the first part, this block or this element has performance curve. Okay, so if you are studying in petroleum engineering or chemical engineering or mechanical engineering, you are familiar with performance curve. For example, if you have a pump, the pump can be described, the performance of the pump can be described with performance curve. Okay, let's say the performance of block 1 can be described by this performance curve. Okay, this performance curve. And in petroleum engineering, when we describe performance, this is the best for us to present it like this curve. The vertical axis is the flowing pressure and the horizontal axis is the flow rate. Okay, so let's say we have element 1 with performance shown by this curve. Okay, and we also have the element 2, block 2, which has a performance that can be described by this performance curve. Okay, so we have the performance curve of the block 1 and the block 2. Okay, maybe you start to understand where I am going to. Okay, so if we overlay the first plot or the first curve and the second curve, we will have this one where there will be intersection between the performance curve of the element 1 with the performance curve of the element 2. Okay, and this intersection is actually coming from this one. Okay, so the intersection between this, the performance curve of block 1 and the performance curve of the block 2 is actually coming from this node, the intersection or the interface between these two blocks. Okay, and later on we will call it operating point. Okay, when we are start talking about nodal analysis in petroleum engineering. Okay, we are still talking in general view right now. Okay, so yeah, the intersection between the curve 1 and the curve 2 is now our operating point. Okay, so now we start talking about petroleum engineering. Previously we are talking about general description. Now we start focusing on petroleum engineering. So if we are in petroleum engineering world, the system, the system that composed of element 1, 2, 3, 4 now becomes reservoir, wellbore, all right, the flow line, and the field station. Okay, so now you understand. And if you are being a reservoir engineering or reservoir engineer or production engineer, if we are concentrating on the subsurface part of the petroleum industry, we have interest more on reservoir and wellbore. Okay, whereas the flow line and field station now become the responsibility of our friends surface facility engineer, mechanical engineer, process engineer, chemical engineer, right? But if we are in reservoir engineering or production engineering or petroleum engineering discipline, we are focusing on reservoir and wellbore. So the intersection between reservoir and wellbore is now very, very important for us to describe the performance of our system. All right. Okay, so that's the introduction. Before we going deeper and deeper into this nodal analysis theme. So we start talking now about reservoir, the first element of our system. So this is the schematic of reservoir. I'm sure you already understand. Already understand about the reservoir. We have typical schematic of reservoirs. Like for example, if we have oil reservoir, then we have impermeable rock, the cap rock, and then the oil reservoir and water layer or aquifer. Okay, we call it oil reservoir. And the next one, the gas reservoir. Again, we have well, we have cap rock, we have gas reservoir itself, and usually we have aquifer, the water bearing zone. And we can also have this system, cap rock and gas cap, usually gas storage above reservoir, we call it gas cap, and below the gas cap, the oil reservoir, and again, the aquifer. So this is the reservoir. And reservoir has two most important properties. Okay, the first one is, of course, the permeability. The higher the permeability, the easier the fluid to flow, and vice versa. Okay, this is to show the low permeability. So you can see the streamline. This shows the low permeability. Whereas if we have high permeability, it will be like this one. Okay, and in this system, in this picture, oil flow rate or the liquid flow rate will be higher compared to the left one. Okay, so the reservoir has two most important parameters. The first one is permeability to enable liquid or fluid or gas to flow. And the second one is porosity. So porosity, when we are talking about porosity, it's about storage, how much oil we have, how much gas we have. But if we are talking about performance, if we are going to talk about flow, production, then permeability is the most important rock property, right? And how can we get the information regarding the reservoir property, permeability or porosity? Of course, it comes from log analysis. Okay, it is easily understandable. We already know about this. We have a measurement named logging, and from this logging, we get information regarding the radioactivity. For example, if we use gamma ray, okay, and then the resistivity to distinguish between hydrocarbon layer or water zone, all right, and also porosity, and later on we can calculate the water saturation and also the permeability. Okay, so we can describe the property of the reservoir by using log analysis measurement. And of course, we can do also other measurement with core analysis, right? And we can combine the result from core analysis and log analysis to get better picture and better characterization regarding the properties of our reservoir. Okay, so this is a typical or example of log analysis. So the first one, we have gamma ray. Okay, this is to show which layer has high permeability and which layer has low permeability. Okay, that's the output. But to go to more basic, gamma ray is used to distinguish lithology. For example, this is to show the shell, and this is the sand layer. Okay, shell has high API gamma ray, and sand has lower gamma ray reading. Okay, so for example, if we start from this left column, we can show the reservoir section or the sand section. Let's say from this depth to this depth. Okay, we have gross rock reservoir or the gross rock, right? And then this is of course not enough. Okay, we still don't know where or how thick our reservoir is. All right, this is only the gross rock. not the reservoir or the pay that contains oil or gas. So this is only the house, the body, the rock body that will contain the fluid. Okay, and we need more information from resistivity log. Okay, by using this resistivity log, we can distinguish between hydrocarbon zone and water zone. Of course, hydrocarbon, either gas or oil, will have higher resistivity compared to water. So now, let's say in this case, we have high resistivity from this interval, or from this depth to this depth. Okay, so let's say we have hydrocarbon zone here. And below this zone, we have water-bearing zone, or we have aquifer, or we have water layer, right? So we have hydrocarbon, and we still don't know how much gas we have, how thick oil we have, all right? We still only know about the hydrocarbon. And then we need more information, and it is supplied by this porosity log and the density log. And using the combination of the porosity log, right, and then the density log, we can distinguish between gas and oil, right? Where in this case, gas will show butterfly effect, okay? The separation between these two logs. And let's say after we interpret this log together with our friends petrophysicists, right, we can know that our gas zone is this thick, okay? And the thickness of our oil reservoir is now this thick. And of course, below this oil reservoir is the brine zone. Okay, so what we get from this? By using log analysis, by deriving the result from this log analysis, we get two important data for our nodal analysis. Two most important information for our nodal analysis. The first one is thickness, right? The thickness of the reservoir, the thickness of the oil zone, or we can say net pay, okay? The net pay that contains oil. So the thickness of the reservoir, or the thickness of the net pay, we call it net pay, all right? That's important. And of course, the permeability. We get the permeability after processing this log analysis through some calculations. And of course, we can get porosity and saturation, but they don't have direct impact, a significant direct impact to nodal analysis. Thickness and permeability are more important for direct calculation. Okay, so we get the properties of our reservoir that later on will describe the performance of our reservoir from our from the log analysis, right? Okay, we continue. And we only discussed about rock property. We need to talk also about the property of the reservoir fluid. Okay, and there are a lot of properties. There are many properties, many fluid properties in our reservoir. Density, right? Viscosity, and then many things, right? Formation volume factor, for example, right? But regarding nodal analysis, the most important property is, of course, viscosity, right? And what is viscosity? Viscosity is a measure of fluid's resistance to flow. Now we can clearly understand that later on viscosity will influence the performance of our system. And let's say we have water here and honey there. Water, of course, has a low viscosity, only 1 centipoise in this example, whereas honey has high, very high viscosity, more than 12,000 centipoise. Okay, and of course, if we have reservoir fluid that is more like water, then of course the flow will be easier. But if we have heavy oil, for example, whose property is like honey, then of course it is more difficult for the well to flow the fluid, or for the reservoir to push the fluid to the surface. All right. So viscosity is important, and viscosity will influence the velocity profile like shown there. Okay. This is the profile for high viscosity. All right, the velocity profile, and this is the velocity profile of coming from the low viscosity fluid. Of course, low viscosity will result in higher velocity profile and higher velocity. Okay, so we have discussed about rock properties and fluid properties. Okay, so we have discussed about the reservoir itself, and now we are talking about reservoir performance. So we go step by step so that finally we can understand nodal analysis. Okay, now we go to reservoir performance. And there are many ways to describe the performance of a reservoir, but one of the most popular way to describe the reservoir performance is by using productivity index. Okay, productivity index is a measure of the ability of the well to produce fluids from the reservoir. So for example, we have this simplistic reservoir model, cylindrical reservoir model. We have this cylinder, which is actually our reservoir. We have well producing from the center of the reservoir. It produces with a constant flow rate of Q, and it has bottom hole flowing pressure of PWF. It has wellbore radius of RW, and the reservoir has reservoir radius or drainage radius of RE, with net pay thickness of H, viscosity of mu O, and oil formation volume factor of BO, permeability of K. And this is the pressure trend, pressure profile, starting from the reservoir pressure, all right, going down to the bottom hole flowing pressure. Okay, so if we have this system, if this system is true, then the productivity index can be easily calculated using this formula. Okay, assuming that we only have one phase in our reservoir system. Okay, so productivity index is oil flow rate or liquid flow rate divided by the pressure difference between the average reservoir pressure minus the bottom hole flowing pressure, or Q by delta P. Okay, so this describes the performance of the productivity of the reservoir. And we can also analytically calculate the productivity index, or J, by using this equation. Okay, this is a constant. Actually, it is a unit conversion factor multiplied by the permeability and thickness. All right, that's why I said that permeability and thickness are two most important information that we have from LOB regarding nodal analysis or reservoir performance. All right, and then all of them divided by viscosity, oil formation volume factor, and then this one, logarithmic natural of RE divided by RW minus this one plus skin factor. Okay, so this is the productivity index. All right, you can see the rock property represented by the permeability, and the fluid property here is the viscosity. So if we have higher permeability, it means we have higher productivity index, and if we have higher viscosity, it means that our productivity will be lower. And this is the analytical approach, but we can also get the information of our reservoir performance by using empirical method. And we have many equations. Maybe you already know these equations, like Vogel equation, Wiggins equation, Standing equations, and Vetkovich equation. Some of these equations can be found also in our software. Okay, and we will later on can use one of these example. Okay, I've prepared a case with productivity index and a case with Jones equation. Unfortunately, I don't show you the Jones equation, but it's also a popular equation to describe inflow performance relationship. Okay, so we call, or we name the reservoir performance by using these words: inflow performance relationship, or IPR. Okay, All right. So this is equation that will be used to describe the performance of our reservoir. Okay, we continue. All right. So this is the curve that will show the performance of our reservoir. So we start from high pressure, which is actually the reservoir pressure, and go down until it reaches the highest flow rate with the lowest flowing pressure. Okay, so to construct the IPR curve, the vertical axis is the flowing pressure and the horizontal axis is the flow rate. So if you have data from your well, if you do well test data, you can plot. If you have some flow periods, you can plot and you can construct this IPR. But we can easily construct this one using this equation, one of this equation. Okay, so it represents the performance of our reservoir. And how to construct it, how to construct the IPR, like I just said, by doing well testing. Okay, so this is the system for to do well testing. So if we have reservoir here, reservoir, and of course this is well, we need to put a downhole gauge to monitor and to record the flowing bottom hole pressure because we need data of PWF. You see, there are always PWF, so we need data of it. All right, data of PWF, bottom hole flowing pressure. And we can also get information regarding flowing tubing head pressure or well head pressure. All right, and then of course we usually have choke and then flow line, but the most important part of this measurement is of course the test separator. In test separator we have meters. We have meter for the liquid and we have meter for the gas. For example, if we want to measure the liquid flow rate, we use turbine meter, all right, or Coriolis meter or ultrasonic meter. And then for the gas flow rate, we can measure with orifice meter. But yeah, we want to measure the flow rate. So if we get the information of the flow rate, we get from the separator, actually from the meter, and we get information of this PWF, bottom hole flowing pressure, which we get from this downhole gauge, then we can already construct the IPR using the previous equation. Okay, so this is only a schematic of the well test separator. You can see this is the well fluid inflow coming into this separator. Here we will measure the flow rate, or we can see it better by looking at the right picture. We can measure the flow rate of the water phase and also the oil phase and also the gas phase. Okay, so by placing meter, by installing meter in our well test separator, we can now measure the flow rate coming from the well. And then later on, we can construct the inflow performance relationship. Again, this is a schematic of the well test separator. All right, so for example, if we have all production from all the wells, all right, gathered in the production manifold, it can go to the production separator, where from which the water will go to the water processing facility, and later on water will be injected again into the reservoir, and gas will go to gas treatment. Maybe it will be burned in flare, or maybe it will be used for gas lift system, or maybe it will go to cellulose system. Okay, and we also have this one, the production or the fluid flow from the test manifold. So we have production manifold and we have well test manifold. Production manifold obtain the production from many wells, whereas well test separator only get production or flow from only one well that will be tested. Okay, so production, fluid flow, from the test manifold coming into the test separator. We will measure the water flow rate. We will measure also the gas flow rate, and we will measure the oil flow rate. You can see the symbols of the meter, right? And later on, the oil flow will be collected or will be combined in this pipeline to go to the second separator, second stage separator. But from this test separator, we get information of our oil flow rate or liquid flow rate. Okay, and regarding the pressure monitoring or pressure recording, it can be done like this way. So you use slick line unit to lower down the pressure gauge, going down to the bottom of your well, and then record the flowing pressure there. And later on, after the testing has been completed, you can pull the tool, and then you download the data, and then you do that, you process the data for the calculation. But many companies use this kind of continuous monitoring. So we can say, we can call it periodic measurement, and we have continuous monitoring, where the pressure gauge are permanently installed in the tubing, so that it can continuously measure and monitor the pressure, the dynamic phenomena within the reservoir. Okay, so you can get the flowing bottom hole pressure either from periodic measurement and from continuous monitoring. Okay, so this is the another story, or a simplistic story. So we have reservoir, we have well, we have flow line coming to the separator, and then the separator, from separator we have gas stream and we have liquid stream. Okay, so let's say we have information regarding the reservoir pressure, and we plot this reservoir pressure, and then we also know the separator pressure. Okay, so we now know the back pressure from the system. So we have reservoir pressure, we have separator pressure. Okay, and then we plot it. We are only talking about inflow performance relationship here. Okay, so you get one data, only one data is sufficient. Okay, only one data is required to construct the IPR. So you get this data, which is actually flowing bottom hole pressure and flow rate at simultaneous well test. Okay, so you cannot measure the flow rate at one well testing and you measure the flowing bottom hole pressure at another testing on another date. You cannot do that. Okay, you must perform the simultaneous measurement and monitoring. So at the same time you measure the flow rate, at the same time you measure the pressure, so that you can get this data, in which the x-axis is the flow rate, actual flow rate from the well test separator, and the vertical axis, y-axis, is the flowing bottom hole pressure obtained from the downhole gauge. Okay, so by using this one data and applying the previous equation, previous empirical equation, you can construct this inflow performance that describes the performance of your reservoir. Okay, so this is very, very important. This describes the health of your reservoir. Okay, so if reservoir is a person and the engineer is a doctor, then IPR is a curve that shows the performance and the health and the stamina of that person. So we as a reservoir engineer or petroleum engineers are doctors of our reservoir, and this plot is the curve of our reservoir's performance. Okay, and this discussion is actually more about oil reservoir, but we can also do this kind of analysis for gas reservoir. But the well testing mechanism usually is more sophisticated and more complex. For example, we can do back pressure test, isochronal test, and modified isochronal test. Okay, and the same thing by using this multi-rate test, for example, we can get four data and then plotted in this plot to construct IPR for gas well or for gas reservoir. Okay, so the same thing for oil reservoir and the gas reservoir, we perform well testing, we get flow rate, we get flowing pressure, and then we use equation to construct the IPR that describes the performance of our reservoir. And that's for the reservoir performance. We are not done yet. Now we continue to discuss about the wellbore performance, the second element of our big system. So the first block is reservoir. The second block is the wellbore. So regarding what the wellbore performance, to describe the performance of the well or the wellbore, we start from the first law of thermodynamics. Okay, first law of thermodynamics. We will not talk much about regarding this, but you already understand the form of the first law of thermodynamics. So this equation, from this equation, we can know that the parameters that will influence the performance of our wellbore are mentioned here. Like, for example, the pressure, of course, the pressure and the fluid density, and then the elevation increase or elevation difference, right? And then the fluid velocity or the flow rate, and the friction in the pipe, in the tubing, in the casing, and the tubing length, and the tubing inner or inside diameter, the tubing ID or the casing ID. So these parameters influence the performance of our wellbore, which is simplistically shown by this diagram. So first point, second point, L is the tubing length, delta Z is the elevation difference. And if we break down the pressure drop calculation, we can now distinguish the elevation part, the kinetic energy part, and the friction part. In this system, kinetic energy part will not really influence the final performance of the wellbore. So we will only concentrate on the elevation factor and the friction factor. Okay, we start to describe the performance of our wellbore. We start simple by discussing or by starting from single phase liquid flow. In single phase liquid flow, we know two flow regimes: laminar flow, whose Reynolds number is below 2000, and we have turbulent flow, whose Reynolds number is more than 2100. Right, you already know that. And from that, we now discuss about fanning friction factor, because friction is one of the most important factor that influence the wellbore performance. All right, so the fanning friction factor, or FF, can be evaluated based on Reynolds number and the relative roughness. Reynolds number is defined as the ratio of the inertial force to viscous force. Okay, and actually Reynolds number can be calculated using this formula. So K is the fluid flow rate, all right, and then this one, rho, is the fluid density, this is d, small d is the tubing inside diameter, and viscosity. Okay, so this is the formula to calculate the Reynolds number. So these parameters influence later on the friction. And then we have two flow regimes. Below the 2000, below Reynolds number of 2000, we have laminar flow, whose friction factor can be calculated simplistically using this one. All right. And whereas if we have turbulent flow, now to calculate the friction factor is more difficult, is more challenging. We need to use this formula. right? This one is delta. Delta is the absolute roughness, and epsilon is delta by D, which is the relative roughness. Actually, as a petroleum engineer, production engineer, we don't talk much about this one. Okay, we only use the application of these two equations, which is realized as a software. All right, but it's okay for us to discuss from the basic. And to get the friction factor using this approach, we use this plot. Okay, so if you have laminar flow, you will have a linear line like this one, straight line, and in turbulent flow regime, you will have this one. So the friction factor will be strongly influenced by the relative roughness. Okay, and relative roughness are shown here. Okay, so you start from the Reynolds number in the horizontal axis, you go up, you can find laminar flow, or you can find turbulent flow. And if you hit the turbulent or laminar line, you go to the left to obtain the friction factor. Okay, the fanning friction factor. And we can also calculate the Darcy-Weisbach friction factor, or FM, whereas in which FF is FM divided by 4. Okay, so we keep it. We keep the fanning friction factor. But of course, in petroleum system, in product oil and gas reservoir production, of course, we are not talking about single phase. We most certainly will have multi-phase liquid flow. And now the flow regimes will not be only laminar or turbulent. We have now bubble flow, slug flow, churn flow, annular flow, to say the least. Okay, almost all oil wells exhibit multi-phase flow, which composed of oil, water, gas, and even solids. So this is to describe the flow regimes. Annular flow, okay, annular flow with droplets, churn flow. Now it's very dynamic, very turbulent, and slug flow, and dispersed bubble flow. So in the right side, we have liquid as a continuous flow, all right, continuous phase, whereas the gas is now in the form of droplet or the bubble. Whereas if we go to the left, now the continuous phase is the gas phase, whereas the liquid will flow also continuously, but on the wall of this pipeline. Okay, so this is actually the multi-phase flow regime. And to distinguish the flow regime, we usually use this flow regime map. Okay, so if this is by to construct this map, we need to obtain the superficial gas velocity shown on the horizontal axis and the superficial liquid velocity shown on the vertical axis. So here is the zone for the bubble flow, dispersed bubble flow, elongated bubble flow, slug flow, froth flow, and annular flow. Of course, the flow regime will finally influence the wellbore performance. That's why we need to understand at least the basic of this flow regime. Okay, now we go to the final curve that will represent the performance of the well. Okay, and we call the curve as the vertical lift performance. Previously, the curve that shows the performance of the reservoir is called inflow performance relationship, or IPR. In this system, vertical lift performance, or VLP, will represent the performance of the wellbore. All right. So again, we start from the first law of thermodynamic. We have this one, the first component. This is actually the elevation component. And then the second one is the friction component. I said that the kinetic energy is not significant, so we can neglect that. The most important elements of this equation are this one, elevation factor, and the friction factor. So the green line is representing the elevation factor, whereas the red line represent the friction factor. And if we combine, then we will have the blue line. Here on the left, we have density dominated section. And on the right, we have friction dominated section. Okay, we get this blue line by combining this elevation factor and the friction factor by following this equation. Okay, so we get this one. All right. Again, this is constructed by plotting the flowing pressure and the flow rate. Okay, so we end this section for the VLP. So keep in mind the form or the shape of the IPR and then the shape of this VLP. Okay, we talked about the reservoir performance. We talked about the wellbore performance. Now we talk about nodal analysis. All right, nodal analysis. So nodal analysis is actually about the combination of the reservoir performance and the wellbore performance. So reservoir performance plus the wellbore performance becomes the nodal analysis. So this is very important concept to understand. So again, you see this, the snapshot of our system, the block system. The first block is the reservoir, whose performance is shown by this IPR. Okay, so we call it IPR, the performance of the reservoir. And then the performance of the wellbore, the second block, is shown by this VLP, vertical lift performance. IPR and VLP, all right? IPR and VLP. And if we combine reservoir and wellbore to make one system, and we have intersection, which is indicated by this node. So now we perform nodal analysis, all right? Where in which the intersection of these two curves is actually the point here. And now we call it the operating point or operating condition, all right? Which is indicated by the flowing bottom hole pressure, if we go to the left, and the flow rate, if we go down. Okay, so this is the operating point, operating condition of our well. All right, the combination or the intersection between the IPR and the VLP. All right, so again, we have this axis, PWF, flowing pressure, and the flow rate, and we have reservoir, wellbore, flow line, separator. We know the reservoir pressure, we know the separator pressure, right? We know the reservoir pressure, we know the separator pressure, we know the inflow performance curve, we know the outflow performance curve, so we know the operating condition or the operating point, which is indicated by the PWF at well testing time and the flow rate at well testing time. Okay, so again, this is to just to refresh again. We can construct the IPR using this equation. This is actually Vogel equation. And to construct the VLP, we can also describe it using this simple equation also. So if we combine these two equations, we will get this one. So this is for the oil well. And for the gas well, we can construct the IPR using this CNN method, CNN method, all right, to obtain the IPR of this gas well. And this equation to show the vertical lift performance, this one. And to obtain the intersection point, to obtain the operating point, you can just combine algebraically these two equations to get this one. All right. So that's very easy. And using nodal analysis, you can perform many scenarios, like for example, this picture. So we have three scenarios of IPR. So here the differing factor is the skin factor. We have skin of -2, indicating a stimulated well, skin of 0, indicating a normal well without formation damage, and skin of 2, indicating formation damage. Okay, so you can see that IPR with skin of -2 will be bigger, will be fat, which means that we can have higher flow rate if we are in this condition. All right. And if we have formation damage, we have positive skin, the IPR will shrink, will be small, will be slim. And it means that if we flow, maybe we will have low flow rate. And to influence the vertical lift performance, I said before, there are several parameters that will influence the VLP. One of them is the tubing inside diameter. So we have three scenarios for the tubing inside diameter: 3 inches, 3.5 inches, and 4 inches. Of course, 4 inches tubing with 4 inches will give us better flow rate, higher flow rate. That's why the shape of the VLP will be like this. Whereas the 3 inches tubing, the smallest tubing will give us smallest flow rate. All right, that's why the VLP is shown by this blue line. Okay, so we have 3 IPRs and 3 VLPs. Okay, so let's say if we use a tubing of 3 inches and we have formation damage, so that we have skin factor of 2. So now we are in this blue IPR, and I mean the green IPR and blue VLP, then our operating point will be this one. So this is for gas well, and the flowing bottom hole pressure will be 2,500, whereas the flow rate will be maybe 13 mmSCF per day. Okay, but if we change the system, for example, now we do acidizing for the well, so that the skin factor will reduce from 2, now become 0. So now the IPR increase becomes bigger, and we change the tubing because now we have better reservoir performance. Now we want to adapt with that. We want to produce more. So the reservoir becomes better, becomes healthier. Now I want to install bigger tubing so that I can obtain higher flow rate. That's why I now install tubing with inside diameter of 4 inches. And now I have this operating point coming from this dark blue IPR and the purple VLP. So now I have lower bottom hole flowing pressure of approximately 2000 psia and higher flow rate of maybe, for example, 22.5 million standard cubic feet per day, which is significantly higher than the previous condition. Okay, so you improve the IPR by doing stimulation so that the skin will decrease from 2 becomes 0, and then you change the tubing from 3 inches to 4 inches to obtain ultimately higher performance. And this is a story of IPR, how it describes the performance of a well, a historical performance of a well. So let's say we start from point 1, okay, and this point 1 has IPR of this orange line. And now because I know the performance of this reservoir and well, I want to equip the well with ESP, okay, so that I can obtain higher flow rate, for example. So I install ESP without creating formation damage. without creating formation damage so that the IPR will become constant, will not be influenced. So that although I go to from point 1 to point 2 with now I have ESP, but the IPR will be the same. Okay, I still in the orange line, but now I have higher flow rate from flow rate 1 to flow rate 2 because now I have ESP. Okay, so this is the production volume, this is the IPR and VLP. But something happened, I suffer formation damage, now I become the 0.3. And of course, with this formation damage, now IPR shrinks, becomes the yellow line. Okay, becomes the yellow line. My IPR is now very, very, very slim. My flow rate is very, very, very small. Okay, so now in this IPR, okay, I now in 0.3. Of course, I'm not satisfied with that. I perform hydraulic fracturing, fracturing the damaged well. So now I go from 0.3 to 0.4 because I perform stimulation, in which case I perform hydraulic fracturing. Now the IPR significantly changes from this yellow line to this purple line, 0.4. Now my flow rate is significantly increased also. And because of that, because the well performance is becoming better, I want to increase higher flow rate. I want to increase the flow rate to become higher. That's why I do ESP upgrading. I install ESP. So now, without changing the formation, without changing the reservoir performance, I go from 0.4 to 0.5. But still in the same IPR because I don't change the formation characteristic. But I get higher flow rate because now I have ESP upgraded. Okay, so this is the application of nodal analysis to describe historical performance of a well. Okay, so I will close this presentation before going to the software with this artificial lift nodal analysis. So we know several artificial lift system. So for example, Sackrod pump, right? We need to understand first the concept of the IPR, the design aspect of it, and how each parameter influence the performance. Let's say the parameters that govern the performance of the Sackrod pump are shown here. The strokes per minute, the stroke length, the plunger diameter, and the slip coefficient, for example. The same thing, we construct the IPR and then we do sensitivity analysis. We do some scenarios like this one. I construct the nodal analysis. This is the IPR, and I do sensitivity to vary this one, the speed, the stroke per minute. I put 12, 15, and 20. Okay, of course, with higher speed, higher stroke per minute, I get higher flow rate. So I don't change the IPR. There is no change in the formation characteristics. I just change the wellbore performance or the artificial lift performance by changing the speed or the stroke per minute. Okay. And if I change the plunger diameter or the pump diameter, I will have this one. I go from 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches, and 2 inches. Of course, pump with diameter of 2 inches will give me the highest flow rate, all right? But still in the same IPR. This is for the Sackrod pump, and I can do the same thing with gas lift, but now I will vary the gas injection rate, okay? Previously, I vary the speed, the stroke per minute. Now I change the the diameter of the pump. In gas lift, I vary the gas injection rate. Okay, so like this one, I vary the gas injection rate And from this plot, I can generate this gas lift optimization plot. Okay, so I vary the gas lift injection rate from 0, 3, 6 million standard cubic feet up to about 20. And I can get this trend, so I can obtain the optimum gas injection rate for my oil production. This is for gas lift, and this is for electrical submersible pump. I do this in PipeSim. So there are also several parameters that will influence the performance of the ESP. For example, the operating frequency, all right, and then the stages of the pump. So if I vary these two parameters, of course, the nodal analysis will change. For example, I do the combination of those two parameters. Oh no, I only vary the operating frequency, but I also vary the reservoir pressure. So let's say, let's talk about first the IPR. So to change the IPR, I change the reservoir pressure. So by changing your reservoir pressure, now the IPR will change. So I go from the red IPR to blue IPR. And then I can change also or vary also the operating frequency. I use 40 Hertz, 50, 60, and 70 Hertz. And now I get this picture, this nodal analysis. And lastly, I think the progressive cavity pump, the same thing. I can vary some parameters to get a new nodal analysis from which I can do analysis to finally select or apply the best operating condition. Like this one, again, in this system, in this case, I vary the RPM, the speed of the rotation of the progressive cavity pump, the rotor. All right, so that concludes the first part, the presentation. So from here, I will go to the software. Okay, I will stop share. And now I will go first to the Prosper. All right, can you guys see the Prosper? Friends, can you see the Prosper? Hello, everyone. Okay, let's go ahead. All right, so we are now inside the Prosper. I will perform, hopefully I have time to perform the suck rod pump design. Okay, so let's go ahead. We start from here. Okay, this session is not about the introduction of the Prosper, of course, so I will run through. Okay, so this is the Prosper. I start with no artificial lift. Okay, I can modify some first. For example, this is the on land, onshore. This is the case hole. All right, done. So from here, I will provide PVT information. So you can follow through. You can follow the demonstration of how to perform nodal analysis, right? So let's say the GOR is 160 with oil gravity of 25 API and gas gravity of 0.68 and water salinity of, for example, 80,000. No impurities. I will use Glasso equation for the bubble point pressure, solution gas ratio, and the oil formation volume factor. And I will also use Beal et al. Calculation equation to obtain the oil viscosity. So, okay, so I click done. If you have laboratory data, you can provide in this table and you do matching. But let's keep it for now. Done. Okay, so from here, from PVT section, we now go to the IPR section. We open, and to construct the IPR, there are several methods. In this case, I will use PI, productivity index entry method, like the one I just explained previously. Okay, so to construct or to obtain the IPR, I need to provide the reservoir pressure, for example, 1,500 with reservoir temperature of 130 Fahrenheit, and let's say the water cut is 0. Okay, and now total GOR still 160, and let's say the productivity index is 0.5. Okay, so that's quite simple. Validate. Okay, the IPR is valid, and now I can calculate to construct the IPR. So now I get the absolute open flow, the maximum flow rate. I plot the result. I show the rate and the pressure. Done. Okay, we wait for the IPR to show. Okay, so now I have constructed the IPR. Very easy, right? The IPR using the productivity index. Okay, we can finish. Done. Done. Okay, we are not done yet. Now we need to provide the information for our well bore. We go to this section, equipment section, double click. I want to edit the deviation survey, downhole equipment, geothermal gradient, and yeah, average heat capacities. I click edit. Now the deviation survey to show the deviation of the well, the measured depth and the true vertical depth, starting from depth of 0 down to 3,500, the same measured depth and the true vertical depth. So I have vertical well. Okay, so this one I can plot. So you can see this is the deviation survey of my well. It is a vertical well because Sacrotam is best for the vertical well. Done. Okay, now I construct the well configuration starting from Christmas tree. All right, and then I will use the tubing. Okay, down to 3,500 feet with inside diameter of 2.441, roughness 0.00112. Okay. All right, so that's enough. Click done. Now the geothermal gradient with overall heat transfer coefficient of 8. And then the temperature at 0 feet, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And at the reservoir depth, the temperature is 130. Done. Lastly, the average heat capacities. We can use the default numbers for the oil, gas, and water. Click done. We can check the summary. Draw downhole. Okay, so this is the schematic of our well, starting from the Christmas tree and the tubing. Very simple. All right, click done. Click done. Click done. Okay, we wait for the system to be ready. All right, so this is the schematic, the picture of our well. So now we are ready to perform the nodal analysis. We go to calculation section. System, now you can read IPR and VLP, right? IPR and VLP. Okay, now to obtain the IPR and VLP, I just need to provide the wellhead pressure. Okay, because later on the wellhead pressure will be used to calculate the flowing bottom hole pressure. Okay, so top node pressure in this case is 100 psig. Okay, let's say the vertical lift correlation, I will use the default equation, the petroleum experts. Calculate. Show calculating data. All right, very easy. So this is my nodal analysis with wellhead pressure of 100, water cut of 0, total GOR of 160 SCF per STB. So you can see in this system, we can flow. Why? Because it is indicated that there is intersection between the VLP and the IPR. All right, the VLP is the blue line, whereas the IPR is the red one. And you can see the result, liquid rate 140 stock tank barrel per day, with oil flow rate the same because we have water cut of 0. And this is the gas rate, which is calculated using the total GOR. Okay, you can also plot, system plot all cases, liquid rate for the x-axis and the y-axis to show the VLP and IPR. Done. All right, so this is our nodal analysis, actually the same plot, denoting or indicating the intersection between VLP and our IPR. So now we can produce the well. But of course, water cut will increase. Okay, water cut will increase. Let's say we go to, I make cases, I will vary the water cut. Let's say we only have 2 water cut, 0 and 80. If you have water cut 80, it means that you have water more dominantly, and because you have much water, the density or the gravity of the weight of the liquid column in your well will be heavier, and maybe the reservoir pressure is not sufficient to lift the liquid from the bottom hole to the surface, and your well will die. Okay, so we click done. Okay, now you can calculate. All right, so you can see for water cut of 0, there is intersection, the well can flow, the flow rate here. But at water cut of 80, there is no intersection. There is no liquid rate, there is no oil flow rate, there is no intersection. Okay, this one, the VLP, the blue one. All right, of course you need high pressure so that the IPR can go up and there will be flow rate, but of course cannot because the reservoir pressure is limited. All right, this is the blue line, the VLP, and the red one is the IPR. There is no intersection. Okay, so the well will die, and now we need to install artificial lift in our well so that the well can flow. Or you can also show the plot here, plot all cases. All right, and then we go done. Yeah, you can see this is the condition where the well can flow, and here where the well cannot flow. All right, so that's quite easy. Now we need to install suck rod pump so that the well can flow. We click done. We go back. Okay, and please wait for a while. Now in method, we look at this one, suck rod pump. Okay, we look at this one, suck rod pump. All right. Now we will have a new section and we will wait so that the system can be ready. Sometimes it takes a while so that the system, the Prosper, can be ready for the suck rod pump. Please wait. Okay, so here is actually the Prosper that has suck rod pump already installed. So maybe I can show you the design section first. Okay, so this is the design section. You can see I've prepared the data for the oil gravity, gas gravity, and others. All right, and also water salinity, water cut now is 80, and now I do design section, design aspect of it. Okay, I select the pumping unit, I select the rod type, the rod number, and the rod grade. I choose the plunger diameter, close, and now I go to the suck rod pump section. So you can see this is the configuration of my suck rod pump. the anchor tubing. Now I install my pump at depth of 3,500 with pump volumetric efficiency of 80%, pump diameter of 2 inches, surface stroke length of 48 with pumping speed of 23. I use steel rods in my rod type, rod number, this one, plunger diameter 2 inches, and this one. And the gas anchored, I enter. Efficiency of the gas separation is 0.9. Tap type, the cup type, this one, for the gas separator, and the annulus area of 28 inches in square. Okay, so done. I've installed the suck rod pump in my system, and now I can perform nodal analysis. Calculation, IPR VLP. Okay, let's do without case first. Done. Now I perform nodal analysis by do calculation. All right, so that's very easy. Now you can see there is actually obviously intersection between the IPR curve and the VLP curve, the red line and the blue line. And now I can achieve liquid rate of 450 stock tank barrel per day. Very, very high compared to previously where the well will die without artificial lift. Okay, so this is the VLP of my suck rod pumped well. I can also do sensitivity analysis by using cases. Let's say I will use pump stroke length, for example. I use 48 originally, okay, and 64 inches and 72 inches. Done. Calculate. Very easy. So this is with 48, 64, 72. Okay, I can do sensitivity plot. You can see this is pressure against stroke length. I change the variables to show the liquid rate. Done. Yeah, you can see liquid rate increases as I increase the stroke length. Okay, so this is for the 48, 64, 72. You can see the stroke length significantly increase. Or you can also show the IPR like this one. So you can see clearly as I increase the stroke length, the VLP will change and I will get higher flow rate. Okay, so that's it for the nodal analysis with Prosper, in which we install suck rod pump to equip our well. And then for the second case, okay, so this is the pipe sim. All right, we start with general. We call it, for example, combined artificial lift. All right, and now I will set the tubulars. Okay, I will go from this mode to detailed mode. All right, and then the dimension option, I will go wall thickness. So I will construct the well liner. So you can see the schematic of my well real time by looking at this picture. Okay, so now I continue. I have casing here and I call it liner 1 and then liner 2. Okay, and then this one is the 11,300. This one is 11 or 15,600. Okay, this one 11,300. This one you can follow through 16,300 with inside diameter 8.835 and then 6.9 659, and then 6.366. Wall thickness is also important. Okay, 0.328, 0.317 with default roughness. This is for the casing or liner. And then I need to provide also for the tubing. I have two tubing. The first one, I call it tubing 1. And the second one, tubing 2. Okay. The first one down to 11,300. The second one down to the bottom of the tubing, 15,600. And then this is the tubing inside diameter, 3.476 with wall thickness of 0.271, and the second one, smaller tubing, 0.262 with default roughness. Okay, so from here we have completed the tubular section, and now we do the deviation survey. I will have 2D well, two-dimensional well. This is angle tangential, wellhead depth F of 0. And then for the deviation survey table, I've prepared my data. I will just copy my data first. Okay, wait a second. I've copied my data, and then I can put it here. Okay, so this is the measured depth and the true vertical depth, and this is the deviation survey of my well. All right, now we go to downhole equipment. I will install the packer. I call it packer at depth of 15,590. Okay, so you can see my packer here. Now I will also install artificial lift. I call it gas lift. It is active artificial lift, and I will use for the injection basis, I will use injection gas rate, and the quantity is 2.7 million standard cubic feet per day. Right, this is my gas lift, and this is the gas specific gravity for the gas lift gas, 0.86 for example. And I will also install ESP. At this one, I will install ESP, the symbol of the ESP, and the symbol of the gas lift. And I will locate the gas lift first, gas lift valve at 15,000 feet. All right, so here my gas lift valve, which is actually a orifice valve. And now I will install the ESP at depth of 15,600. There. All right. I go down. Okay, I will select the pump. Okay, I will use Reda pump. Reda SN. Okay, wait for a while. Yeah, you need to be familiar with your pump. Of course, I will find my pump first. All right. For example, the casing ID or the diameter A5. Reda. For example, I want to achieve flow rate of 6,000. So I can find here. Yeah, for example, I want to use this one. Reda GN 7000. Okay. Click OK. It will be selected from the pipe sim. Let's wait for a while. Okay, so this is my pump. All right. Let's say the operating frequency is 70 Hertz, and the operating stages, for example, 150. Okay. And then the rating factor is 1. Right, the rating factor is also 1. I can do viscosity correction to obtain better result. Okay, so far so good. So I have gas lift and I have ESP. Now I go to heat transfer. All right, so the U value input, I will use multiple. Ambient temperature input also multiple. Okay, and then for this one, at depth of 0, the ambient temperature is 50 degrees Fahrenheit with U value of 2. Okay, and then for the depth of the reservoir at 16,100, the reservoir pressure is 276 with U value of 2 also. All right, so this is the U value, the red line, and this is the temperature profile, the linear temperature profile. And lastly, I will go to completion. Here we will have equation for our reservoir or our IPR. So at completion, I call it reservoir at depth of, okay, 16,100. All right, 16,100. And then I will go to Jones. All right, and then the reservoir pressure is 2,972, reservoir temperature of 276. Now I use Jones equation. Okay, Jones equation, which is indicated by 2 parameters, A for the turbulent aspect and B for laminar aspect. You can follow me. This is 9.2 to the power of 10 to the power of -6, and the laminar aspect 0.09. Okay, this is to construct the IPR, but I still don't have the IPR because I need to provide the fluid property first. I go to fluid model. I add new fluid model. Okay, this is the characteristic for my fluid. I call it oil with viscosity of 16. Let's say the gas oil ratio of 300 standard cubic feet per stock tank barrel. And this is the gas gravity, 0.7, water specific gravity of 1.03 with API degree of 38. So click close. I already have the oil property, reservoir. Okay, so this is the IPR. All right, constructed using Jones equation. Okay, so I have my well and I have been validated here by this design. I have my well, I have my reservoir, I have the reservoir performance. Okay, so now we can perform nodal analysis. We go to home, we go to nodal analysis. Okay, we put the nodal analysis point at the bottom hole because we concentrate on the intersection of the reservoir and the wellbore. Click OK. Okay, we wait. All right, so this is the sheet or the wizard for the nodal analysis. Let's say the wellhead pressure is 200. Okay, wellhead pressure is now 200. This is the reservoir pressure and the reservoir temperature. I can easily click run to perform the nodal analysis. Okay, we almost at the end of the session, so we will wait for the nodal analysis. All right, interesting. So this is the nodal analysis coming from the combined or hybrid artificial lift. The blue line is the IPR, the red line is the outflow or the vertical lift performance. Right, so we can call it IPR and VLP, IPR and TPR, tubing performance relationship, and the inflow performance relationship. And we can also call it inflow and outflow simply, right? So again, this is the inflow and this is the outflow. This is the operating point. Okay, you can also show the bubble point here by this green line and the view operating envelope here. Okay, but that's not very important. And then you can also plot the profile results, the flowing pressure result. So we start from the reservoir pressure of 2,972. Here we go to the bottom hole flowing pressure at sand phase at perforation. This is the depth of the ESP. All right. And after going into the ESP, the pressure will go up significantly so that we go to the right. All right. Here the discharge pressure after the ESP. And from here we go up to the wellhead pressure. And between the ESP elevation, the depth of the ESP and the wellhead depth of 0 feet, we have gas lift. All right. That's why we have a curvature of this pressure profile, because we have gas lift port somewhere here. Okay, so this is the IPR constructed using the combined artificial lift. But I want to show you how it will be if we don't have the artificial lift. We can do that rather easily by deactivating the artificial lift system. So by unchecking this one, I make the gas lift inactive. And by unchecking this one, all right, I make the ESP inactive. So now I don't have artificial lift. I don't have gas lift. I don't have ESP. Now both of them are shown in red color. Again, I go to nodal analysis and let's see what happened. Run. You see clearly, right? There is no intersection between the IPR and the VLP, because at this condition, we don't have artificial lift. Gas lift deactivated, ESP deactivated. Okay, so that's very clear. Again, I want to activate the gas lift and the ESP. And once again, we will perform nodal analysis. All right. Okay, very interesting. And we can do sensitivity analysis. For example, I want to change the ESP. The stages of the ESP I want to increase. For example, from 120, I want to increase to 200 stages. What will happen? All right, I will increase the flow rate. I will change the VLP without changing the IPR, right? That will happen if you increase the number of the stages. All right, and let's see if we want to change the gas lift now, right? Previously, I changed the stages of the pump. Now I will change the gas injection rate. So starting from 0 for no gas lift, and then this our base case 2.74, and let's say we increase to flow rate of 3.5. What will happen? Run. Okay. All right. So starting from 0 gas lift injection rate, it means we don't have gas lift. We can still flow because we still have ESP, but now the flow rate is significantly decreased. And here, if we have gas lift injection rate of 2.74, the green one, and if we increase to 3.5, we don't change it significantly. All right, the flow rate increases, but it's not significant. We only increase the flow rate from 7,550 to 7,700. All right, so that's for the sensitivity analysis. And lastly, I want to show you the system analysis in the pipe sim. Okay, this is the last part of my session. So let's do system analysis first. Okay, let's wait a little bit more. All right, and we can do for the x-axis gas lift injection rate. I want to start from 1, 2, 3, and then 3, 4 to 5. And for the variable 1, ESP, I want to vary now the operating frequency starting from 0 hertz, or maybe we cannot use 0 hertz, 40 hertz, 50, 60, and let's say 70. What will happen with outlet pressure of 200? Run. This may take a while. All right, but not that long, not for long. All right, so very easy. Now we have system analysis. At horizontal axis, we have gas lift injection rate. At the vertical axis, we have liquid rate, and we have 4 scenario of operating frequency. The blue line is 40 hertz, red line is 50 hertz, green one is the 60, and then 70. All right, by looking at this one, you can do system analysis, you can do economic analysis, so that finally you can select at which frequency you will run the ESP operation, and at what rate you will inject the gas for your gas lift. All right, so I think that's all. So at my session, we have discussed many things regarding the node